Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the show 4 exciting, dynamic performers who are going to show their talent and skill as they talk and show off their knowledge of words and language. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Sue Perkins, and seated on my left, Liza Tarbuck and Graham Norton. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak for just a minute on a subject that I give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And sitting beside me is Sharon Leonard, who's going to help me with the score and blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. Paul, we'd like you to begin the show this week, and the subject we've got here is the biggest fib I've ever told. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
I hate doing Just a Minute. That must be the biggest fib I've ever told, because I actually adore and love the programme. Biggest fibs, I can't really remember. Fibs, I suppose, is a polite way of saying bald-faced lying.
Sue, challenge.
Repetition of fibs. Is it just fib on the card?
Oh, it might be.
Yes, it is. Yes. It's the biggest fib I ever told.
Part of Dr. Perkins.
Yeah. A sharp, incisive mind at work there. So, Sue, you have a correct challenge. You get a point for that. You take over the subject. There are 48 seconds available. The biggest fib I ever told, starting now.
Yes, of course I've performed a tracheotomy before now. Where's that biro? It's so easy to pull off a lie if you do it with confidence. And as a result, in my time, I guess I've lied quite a lot. Small stuff, nothing massive like, hello, I once was the President of the United States. No, I like to keep it on a minuscule level. Just things that make the day-to-day grind tick along more.
Graham, challenge.
Repetition of day.
Correct.
Day to day, yes.
Classic.
So we're going to hear from everybody, I think, in this round. Right, Graham, a correct challenge, a point to you. And you've got the subject, the biggest fib I ever told. 28 seconds, starting now.
I don't mind being humiliated and losing this game every single time I play it. Would be a lie, though perhaps not the biggest one I've ever told. That, oddly, I don't really want to share with you because I'm still using it, if you know what I mean. There are people on planet Earth who realise it's a fib, but they haven't spoken out as yet. The biggest fib I ever... Really? Wow.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and it was Graham Norton, so naturally he's in the lead at the end of that round.
Yes!
Well, yes. As Sue's got a point, Lisa and Paul have yet to score. And Sue, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is family photos. Tell us something about those in this game, starting now.
Family photos exist to remind me that I must never have my mother cut my hair. I resembled a psychedelic Damien in the 1970s. Pudding basin doesn't quite cover it. The scissors were blunt. An asymmetric fringe wasn't as popular back then as it is now. Also, my family photos are testament to the efficacy of orthodontics, because I had 2 front teeth that stuck out at right angles, and thankfully, due to a brace, I now have them that lie slightly more flat to my skull in a normal fashion. But you can imagine me with my national health spectacles and my jaunty hair.
Lisa, challenge.
Do you know what? It's wicked, but there were actually quite a lot of my's. We were coming up to a good count of about 5 or 6. That's fair enough.
And she hesitated as well, didn't she?
She did, but I don't mind that. And do you know what else she's done?
Of errors.
Well, she's done.
It's not
Lisa,
looking good for Perkins.
No.
You have a correct challenge. You have the subject, family photos. 22 seconds, starting now.
Most of my family photos are taken at Christmas time with either Dad about to carve the turkey and slightly the worse for wear, or my father after.
Graham, challenge.
Repetition of father.
No.
Oh, was it not?
Dad, she said.
Oh, I should listen.
So it was an incorrect challenge, Lisa. You get a
Okay.
point for that, of course. You keep the subject, family photos. 12 seconds, starting now.
Big Jim asleep on the couch, followed by my mother, and also a lovely couple of shots of... I went to say my...
Paul challenge.
There was sadly a hesitation.
Yeah,
there
with all
was.
these lovely shots. We never
Well,
know whether...
I'd pulled Sue on my, and I was about to say it about at least 4 times.
I was too busy just enjoying the image of Big Jim on a couch.
Yeah.
Paul, you had a correct challenge there. So you get a point for that. Family photos is with you. 4 seconds to go only. And you start now.
I remember a photograph that was taken of me when I was about 5 years old. I was eagerly...
So Paul, Merton was then speaking with the whistle when, gained that extra point. So they're all equal in the lead now. 2-2-2, Lisa, Graham and Paul. And behind is Sue on 1 point. And Lisa, we'd like you to begin the next round. Taking your driving test. 60. Have you taken yours, by the way?
No.
She still drives, though. Doesn't let it stop her.
There are 60 seconds on that subject, starting now.
When you take your driving test, it's a very good idea to book it during rush hour, because that way the inspector will keep you off all the main roads and let you drive on the quieter streets, thereby adding at least 50% chance to you passing the actual...
Paul challenge.
How would you know?
I think it was an incorrect challenge. So, Lisa, you have another point. You have 42 seconds to continue taking your driving test, starting now.
One other way of making sure that you survive...
Sue challenge.
Slight hesitation.
Yes, no, there was a definite error there. Taking your driving test, Sue, is with you. 38 seconds, starting now.
Blackmail your driving instructor. That's what I did. Get a few photos of him in a park.
Paul challenge.
Blackmailing your driving instructor won't help you in the driving test, because that's a different person.
Paul made a fool of you.
I wish I'd known that at the
stupid.
time. Yeah.
So,
I filmed a man dogging for no good reason. I feel a fraud.
I missed the connection there. What happened?
Graham, I never heard you laugh so loud in my life.
I was really amused.
So, Paul, that was a correct challenge. Well listened. Taking your driving test is with you. 33 seconds, starting now.
By the time I took my driving test at the age of 40, I found it reasonably easy to carry out. By that point, I had sort of done various things in my life that had been quite scary, so the driving examination wasn't up there in the top 5. I remember particularly going round the corner, reversing particularly...
Sue, your challenge.
Repetition of particularly.
Yes. 16 seconds are still available, Sue. Taking your driving test, starting now.
I have now learned that the best way to pass your driving test is to get incriminating evidence of the inspector carrying out said test. And then you will be able to use this hazardous material to your advantage. I suggest wearing night vision goggles, stalking him by day.
So Sue Perkins got that extra point for speaking as the whistle went, and she's now taken the lead, one ahead of all the others. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. An offer you shouldn't refuse. That's the subject. 60 seconds available. Start now.
If a man comes up to you in the street and says, here is £1 million in hard cash, all you have to do is just murder a prominent member of British society and the money will be yours. I suggest that every one of us would pause for a moment and think, who is it? If it's Alan Titchmarsh, I'll do it for nothing. But there are some people, obviously, in the world... I didn't know I was going to say that.
Poor Alan spat out his Sunday lunch now.
I stand behind every word of it, though.
Poor Alan, I mean, he does so well.
Yeah, doesn't he?
Yes.
And for £1 million, there's now a price on his head.
Lisa, you challenged. What was it?
It was hesitation.
It was. So you have the subject, an offer you shouldn't refuse. 40 seconds, starting now.
I was lucky enough to receive an offer of marriage through the post, and I got a picture of said offerer.
Sue
A
challenged.
bit of hesitation.
Yeah, there was a
I can't
definite-
speak, without putting that in.
You got a marriage through the post.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Congratulations, you may already be married. Somebody in Nigeria.
Well, maybe I should save it in case I get it back.
Yes, you should, yeah.
If not, give it to us afterwards. All right. I'm terribly sorry. No, I didn't mean
bet
that.
I will.
There's a
More than
super
most
refuse.
salmon, yeah.
Who knows what goes on in that green room?
You do. There's a reason we call him the octopus.
Sue, you had a correct challenge. An offer you shouldn't refuse. And there are 33 seconds starting now.
I once received an email from a charming prince in Lagos who informed me if I just sent $500 in the post, I could unlock a fortune of billions. So I did. It turns out it was an offer I should have refused.
Paul, challenge.
Deviation.
Why?
We're talking about an offer you shouldn't refuse.
It's true.
Yeah. That's why I said it.
I know.
It was a cautionary tale.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
Yes.
I was just pausing to see whether there was interpretation there which did not coincide with your challenge. And I was wrong, and you are right, as always. 16 seconds for you, Paul, on an offer you shouldn't refuse, starting now.
I was once asked to go on his show, and I said I would love to be interviewed by the erstwhile extremely fascinating, brilliant gardener who once had the audacity to say to Peter Cook, your career's been a bit of a waste of time, hasn't it? And that's one reason why I really didn't take to the man. I'd like to punch him straight in the flower bed.
So Paul Merton then speaking to Whistle Wen gained that extra point, and he's gone into the lead alongside Graham Norton and Alan Titmarsh. If you are listening, I can assure you I do not endorse any of the things they've said.
If you've been affected by any of the issues in tonight's show...
Sue, it's your turn to begin. Talking about Alan Titmarsh, my famous friends. That is the subject. Sue, you have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
It's no show business secret that Paul, Graham, Liza and I are very good muckers. And after this particular edition of Just a Minute, we'll be hot tubbing the hell out of each other. We'll be opening bottles of champagne at the taxpayers' expense, lathering up in a series of exotic unguents, furnished...
Paul challenge.
Is that licence payers' expense rather than taxpayers?
Both. It comes through the same channel, but the taxpayers...
Oh, I suppose,
Well,
yeah,
we can
yeah.
claim for the champagne.
Yeah.
So really, yeah.
Either way is deviation, because it will not happen. and it
Because you
does.
said it would. You said tonight would be the night. I bought the bikini. Paul's got the unitard.
Yes. I've had a Brazilian.
And I've invited Alan Titmarsh.
Yeah. You're obsessed with this man.
I just like to see fair play. Paul, were you challenged?
Yes, I can't remember what it was now.
No, no.
It was licence, thank you, my love.
Oh, yes.
It was
Oh,
yes, tax and licence.
No, I think it was wrong.
Jess, you were going off and being devious about
Yeah, yeah.
all that champagne that was going to be supplied to us afterwards. I mean, absolute fantasy. So we give you the benefit of the doubt then. My famous friends is still with you. 41 seconds starting now.
The Crankies are a barrel of laughs, and you can guarantee whatever port you're in, they'll come and find you. They can party into the night, either in kit or out. It depends.
Graham challenge.
Repetition of party.
Oh, you seem to be alone on that one.
Shocking?
Oh, you're
Sorry,
right.
is that now a swear word or something?
You're right, because she talked about the party
Yes,
afterwards.
yes.
First, when she was talking about all the champagne.
know
yes,
that.
yes. Yeah, but I have to show the listeners that I do know and listen to every word that's said so that I can make a correct decision.
I understand.
So, Graham, you have a correct challenge. My famous friends is with you. 30 seconds starting now.
When I ring up and look for home insurance, it is normally astronomical. When I query said figure,
Lisa challenge.
When I.
When I.
harsh.
But
Listen, if it's
accurate,
anything I've heard all night. I'm quite busy mentally. Just not here.
Lisa, another point to you, and 23 seconds are still available for my famous friends starting now.
I once rang up a car insurance place, funnily enough, and was worried by the fact that the guy told me my insurance premium would be very high.
Sue
A
Chan-
repetition of insurance.
yeah.
fair dues.
Big
Is it
word.
Sean Connery?
Actually, they were worried that Shirley Bassey would be in my car. That's the example they used.
Yeah.
You could have Shirley Bassey in the car.
We could all
And do you
have
know what?
Shirley.
I said, yeah, I could. Because I could.
And Shirley's got third party, so you're all right.
Get over it.
Sue, you had the correct challenge. So you've got my famous friends back with you. 14 seconds starting now. Lisa challenge.
Hesitation.
There's no famous friends up here tonight. Not that
Do you know
sort
what? I
of show.
just fancied that.
Lisa, I tell you what I do, because they enjoyed what you did, I'm going to give you a bonus point for that. But it wasn't actually a correct challenge. So you've still got the subject. You've got 12 seconds. My famous friends starting now.
The only time I've been solicited by a famous person was a man from Ice Warriors, the erstwhile ITV show.
Graham challenge.
That's not a celebrity.
Within the world of fighting on ice, he was quite the whoop.
Fighting on ice, is that a programme?
It was sort of gladiators on ice. I think he was called Wolf, and he looked
yes,
like
I remember
Chewbacca, but on skates. Yeah.
I thought Wolf was one of those ones, and they have those men together, you know, with all their muscles.
Not the DVD collection now, Nicholas. Let's not open the door too widely on the private collection.
Yeah.
Graham, I agree with you anyway. You have the subject. 6 seconds.
Oh, now we've upset Alan Titchmarsh and Wolf. We've ruined their day.
Right, the subject is Wolf. No, it isn't. It's my famous friends. 6 seconds, Graham, starting now.
Did they think someone was going to break into my house and steal Nick Knowles? That's never going to happen, because
Paul challenge.
Famous friends? Nick Knowles?
Nick Knowles.
Nick Knowles.
He's a huge celebrity.
Nick Knowles?
Yeah, DIY SOS. I don't know how to pronounce that.
I know I know DIY SOS is one of the top shows on at the moment, but
Yeah.
do you know who Nick Knowles is?
I know who Nick Knowles is.
Would you want to steal him from Graham's house?
That's my point!
I think we all
my
would.
point.
Lovely man.
So, no, you got the benefit of the doubt this
Yeah.
time. And you've got half a second left.
Hesitation.
No, he never said no. Or
No.
now, or whatever he said.
My famous friends starting now.
I think there's amazing about
So Graham Norton was then speaking, or attempting to speak, as the whistle went, and he's increased his lead at the end of that round. He's out in the lead there. He's 2 ahead of Sue Perkins, and he's 3 ahead of Lisa Tarbuck and Paul Merton, equal in 3rd place. Lisa, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is fake tan. Ooh.
Secrets out, Lise.
A sort of pause went over the audience when that
I
went.
have no idea why you find that funny at all.
That mahogany is
A lot of people
natural.
put their hands up to their faces as well. Right.
I think you've got a cheek.
60 seconds, Lisa, on fake tan, starting now.
It's the fashion at the moment to wander into a small shop off the high street, stand naked, bar perhaps 2 rags, and ask a total stranger to sun-kiss you because you cannot be bothered to go to Torremolinos. What is the world coming to? You can have it put on you via aerosol, or, of course, you can grab some wipes, take them home, and rub them all over your body, hoping not to streak, or, of course, to leave a Jaffa orange colour on the palm of your hand, thereby alerting everybody that you are an idiot. And really should be very happy with alabaster, beautiful skin that maybe is a sign of our times in England, that we don't get a summer anymore, just merely rain, and our kidneys are full, and I'm sodden with the weather. I, of course, have taken the opportunity...
Paul challenge.
We moved on a little bit from fake tan
I was going back then.
to the English weather.
Well, you get
And
the tan from
kidneys
the
and-
sun, don't you?
Tanning.
Yes.
So it's associated with the weather.
It is, yeah.
I mean, if you didn't have sun, you wouldn't have any weather, would
No.
you?
And
He's right, you know.
the planet would be a bit cold as well, wouldn't it?
Yes. So, Lisa, you have gone for 57 seconds. So it would be very mean if I took it away from you now.
Lovely.
You have another point for an incorrect challenge, and 3 seconds available, starting now.
Alan Titchmarsh is very fond of his knees. This is an area...
So Lisa, with points in that round, including one when the whistle went, has moved forward. She's now 1 behind Anita Graham Norton, and the others trailing only a 1 behind the 2 of them. Right. Graham, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is, I don't know how you're going to take this, but I think you'll have fun with it. How to annoy the audience. 60 seconds starting now.
Please welcome Alan Titchmarsh. Would be one way of annoying an audience. Or perhaps I would remark, are the seats in this auditorium tiny, or is this the fattest audience you've ever seen? That, too, will put a damper on an evening. Or remarking that I asked to dim the house lights, could you turn them off now, please, is another way to annoy an audience.
Sue Challenge.
Of another. Is another.
Oh, yes, you did have another.
I was talking for so long.
Sue, you have a correct challenge. 36 seconds are still available. You tell us something about how to annoy the audience starting now.
I think the best way to annoy an audience is to buzz in when somebody's in full flow, like I...
Graham Challenge.
Just demonstrating.
Have you got a challenge within the rules of just a minute?
No.
No.
It's purely a demonstration.
I don't think
I
the
was
audience...
helping. I was
Yeah,
helping.
you were helping. You were
Yes.
illustrating my point.
Yeah. I don't think the audience reaction was big enough for me to give
I
you
didn't
a
think so
bonus
either.
point.
Yeah, don't go on about it. Let's just move on swiftly.
All right. Sue, an incorrect challenge, so you have another point. You have 32 seconds. How to annoy... I said originally an audience, but it is actually the audience. So will you stick to how to annoy the audience?
I will stick to that, yes.
Starting now.
Best way to annoy the audience is to lie to them and pretend we don't go hot tubbing after the show, Nicholas. I think it's time people found out what their licence fee money goes towards paying for. Yes, we go nuts in the aerated hot water. There's one on top of this very building, and there we stand in the buff. Paul's got a Brazilian. In fact, Graham has a full Hollywood. We're not ashamed to expose our leathery skin. In the case of Liza, very tanned. She went to Tenerife, to the elements, and there we are, proudly saying, yes, we're show business.
Right. So Sue was going magnificently to the whistle and gained that extra point, and now she's gone into the lead, 1 ahead of Graham Norton, 2 ahead of Lisa Tarbuck and Paul Merton. And we're into the final round, actually. Oh, a very erudite subject to finish with. Paul, Pythagoras. This will show up those who listen to the math classes or not. There are 60 seconds,
Can I just
Paul.
point out I've got CSE grade 5 maths at this point?
Well, you still might know something about the guy.
Yeah.
Pythagoras, 60 seconds starting now.
Mrs. Pythagoras was always annoyed of her husband. He wasn't a practical man. It's all theory we use, she used to say. You wouldn't put up those bookshelves, but you'd do me a drawing of it. And Pythagoras himself would turn to his missus and say, "You're not the woman I married." And he proved it with an equilateral triangle at A equals B minus X plus 2 squared. What does all that algebra mean? I don't know. I went to school, it never told me. It takes 2 men 5 days to run a bath. How many apples and a bunch of bananas?
Lisa challenge.
Twos. Repetition
Oh, yes,
of... There were 3 twos
There
there.
were 3 twos.
Yeah, I
in
managed to
there,
get off the subject of Pythagoras, though, didn't I?
Yeah.
You did very well on Pythagoras, yes.
Yeah.
So, Lisa, how are you going to do on Pythagoras? You have 36
let's just hold back and don't be excited. That's all I'm
36
saying.
36 seconds
How many?
starting. 36 seconds.
good.
Starting now.
Pythagoras was a very interesting man, and his expertise did not stop at maths. One of the things that he's most famous for in the Greek area is baking. And his flatbreads, mixed with a little bit of lamb and mince, were things of high repute, even being sold.
I have a feeling that Liza has confused Pythagoras with one of the hairy bikers. Philosopher, yes. Mathematician, yes.
But do
Leader
we-
of a cult, yes. Flatbread maker.
Prove it.
Oh, he didn't have to prove it. It was flatbread. It's on 11.
Bake.
I'm taking the rest of the night off.
Well, maybe in his spare time he
She's
was a bit of
good.
a hairy biker. We don't know, do we?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If they'd had bikes,
They
it would
didn't
be
have, they
hairy.
didn't have, yeah. But he could have been hairy.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
So, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. As you're all
dilemma.
almost equal, I'm going to give Lisa the benefit
4
of the
points.
doubt and say you continue for 17 seconds on Pythagoras, starting now.
Who, me?
Yes. We're all challenging at the same time.
Said you. When you said you, I thought you meant Sue.
Oh.
If you'd been listening...
Hesitation. I'm going... Hesitation.
There was hesitation. Yes, there was a hesitation. Yes,
Yeah, huge.
I tell you what happened then. Everybody challenged except Graham.
No, I challenged.
We're now in a vortex.
Everybody's light came on, and I kept doing this,
Yeah,
switching
yeah.
them all off, and the other light.
See,
There you
I
are.
just-
There you are, Graham.
I'm challenged.
Yes,
Who are you giving it to, Nicholas?
I don't know.
Who wants this?
Anyone from the audience fancy
Let's
a
give
pop?
it to Alan Titchmarsh and see what happens.
There are 16 seconds left, and everybody challenged for the same thing. And
So we
only-
all talk for 16 seconds simultaneously.
Yeah.
Let's see what would happen if you... yes.
If I was driving my car, I would find that really annoying.
I will give you his theorem. The square on the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares on the other two sides.
Oh, my
Which was his
eyes.
famous one. So would you please talk on that all together, starting now?
A squared plus B squared equals C squared. What does it mean?
You know everything I know. And you can explain most of what you want me to do about it. People in the audience really don't.
Pythagoras would have loved it. So I will now give you the final score, because nobody scored any points when the whistle went, except they all scored points because they were all talking. Paul, for once, finished in 4th place, just a point or two. Oh.
Come back, Paul!
But he was only 2 points behind, or 3 points behind, Graham Norton, who was in 2nd place. And Graham was only 1 point behind our two ladies, who were equal together in the lead. So they are our joint winners, Liza Tarbuck and Sue Perkins.
I'm hungry.
We do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute. And we'll want to tune in again the same time next week when we play this again. It only remains me to say thank you to these 4 intrepid players of the game, Paul Merton, Sue Perkins, Liza Tarbuck and Graham Norton. We thank Sharon Leonard, who's helped me with the score and blown her whistle beautifully. We're indebted to our producer, Claire Jones. We're deeply indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre in Broadcasting House, who've cheered us on our way magnificently. From the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye, and tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute! Yay! Welcome to Just a Minute. Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 talented, exciting, humorous performers from our profession. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Charles Collingwood, and seated on my left, Pam Ayres and Miles Jupp. Please welcome all 4 of them. As usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviating from the subject. Beside me sits Sharon Leonard, who's going to help me with the score. She'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the recently refurbished Regal Cinema in Evesham in Worcestershire. And we have a wonderful, excited Evesham audience. Cheer us on our way as we begin the show with Paul Merton. Paul, the subject in front of me, as this is a cinema, they've thought of this subject, the best thing to do in the back row of the cinema. There are 60 seconds starting now.
The best thing to do in the back row of the cinema is not to eat noisy food while watching a film. Why is it the food manufacturers...
Oh, Charles, you're challenged.
I think he repeated food.
He did repeat
I'm
food.
terrified for my life.
The reason Paul said he was a bit terrified is, at the cinema here, they don't have a proper stage. And they built one, and it's about 6 feet higher than the audience. And we're all suffering a little bit from vertigo at the moment. Anyway, Charles, that was a correct challenge. So in this game, you get a point for a correct challenge. You take over the subject, and there are 52 seconds still available. The best thing to do in the back row of the cinema, starting now.
The best thing to do in the back of the cinema is to watch the film, but when I was a young boy, it was not the thing...
Miles, you challenged.
I sensed a hesitation there.
Sense one, and your sensing was right. And so you've taken over the subject, you've got a correct challenge, you've got a point, you have 46 seconds still available. The best thing to do in the back row of the cinema, starting now.
The best thing to do in the back row of a cinema, or indeed any place, is to behave yourself. Life is built upon decent principles of good manners and good behaviour. And there is...
Paul challenge.
It was a repetition of good.
Yes, good manners and good behaviour. Right, Paul, correct challenge. There's still 34 seconds available. And it's back with you, the subject, the best thing to do. So are you suffering from vertigo now?
Yeah, no, it's gone, amazingly.
The best thing to do in the back row of the cinema, starting now.
Does anybody have a ladder that I can have access to? Get me off this...
Oh, Pam, you challenged.
A deviation.
Why, darling?
Because he's talking about ladders, and it's nothing whatsoever to do with what you do in the back row of the cinema, and I haven't been able to interrupt so far, so I'm feeling a bit desperate.
Well, everybody's spoken on the first round. Isn't that lovely? And now we have Pam Ayres to tell us something about the best thing to do in the back row of the cinema. You have a point for a correct challenge, Pam, and you have 30 seconds starting now.
In my opinion, the best thing to do in the back row of the cinema is to purchase an enormous bucket full of popcorn and to eat it with the mouth wide open so that the whole audience gets the full benefit of the fragrance and crunchiness of the confection. The next thing to do, which will endear you to all members of the present...
Charles, you challenged.
I think there was a hesitation.
Yeah, I think that's a hesitation, Charles. And you've got him with 6 seconds to go on the best thing to do in the back row of the cinema, starting now.
The best thing to do in the back of the cinema is to sit there with your loved one and place your arm around her shoulder as you watch the film of your dreams.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and it was Charles Collingwood, so he's now way out in the lead ahead of the other two. In fact, they've all got points. Charles has got 3 and the others have all got 1. And Charles Collingwood, it's with you to begin. Subject now is hip-hop. I'm sure it's right up your street, Charles. Tell us something about hip-hop in 60 seconds, if you can, starting now.
Hip-hop, I'd rather concentrate on the word hip, if I might, because my wife has recently had a hip replacement. And there's only so much fun rolling on those white surgical stockings day in and in the evening as well. And although my memory serves me that when I was young, the idea of placing that hosiery onto a female leg was quite exciting, for me it was a torturous chore. Also, she was extremely demanding, and there's only so many times I want to hear that crutch being banged on the ceiling, demanding more attention. However, I'm quite sure she has recommended me for a gong in next year's New Year's honours list because I was such a wonderful servant. But I don't want to show off. I was only doing what all of you would do, and it is, of course, a great honour to serve one's spouse. Now, getting back to the subject of hip-hop, which is, of course, the thing on the card, it is, in fact, a dance which I am particularly adept at.
So Charles Collingwood took the subject of hip-hop and kept going for the full 60 seconds. And he gets a point because he wasn't interrupted. He gets a point for speaking when the whistle went. And so he's moved forward with another 2 points. And he's now in the lead, one ahead of all the others. And he cleverly spoke about other things of hip-hop and only briefly at the last 2 seconds mentioned the dance. Pam, as would you begin the next round? My teens. Can you tell us something about my teens in 60 seconds, starting now?
During my teens, I was undeniably a fashion icon and sported a beehive hairdo of prodigious height and rigidity, not...
Paul challenge.
Can we not talk about height?
So, Paul, we enjoyed the interruption. In fact, we got huge sympathy for you because I know that you do suffer from a little bit from vertigo and you have been put in a very unfortunate position. So we give you a bonus point for your interruption because it got a wonderful reaction from the audience. And Pam gets a point because she was interrupted. And there are 49 seconds, Pam, available for my teens starting now.
Not unlike a loofah. In my 39 and 11 shoes, which I bought from Freeman, Hardy and Willis for 39 and... Oh, no.
I'm afraid to say, when she was doing the price, she got a bit...
yeah, I did.
She couldn't remember pounds, shillings and pence, could you, really?
No, the 39 and 11 threw me. Right.
Yes, she was, therefore we interpret that as hesitation. Charles, you have 39 seconds. Tell us something about my teens starting now.
Of course, I'm extremely lucky that on this panel I'm the one to whom my teens were quite a recent event. And so, therefore, they are, in fact...
Miles' challenge.
I'm not sure which of the many rules you've broken, but I might suggest the inaccuracy of your statement.
Well, that means that's deviation.
Deviation, sorry.
That's
That's
right, yes,
let's call
there are
it
not many rules. There are only 3 rules, Charles. So, Miles, the correct challenge of deviation, and there are 32 seconds. You tell us something about my teens starting now.
My teens began in 1993 when I turned 13 years of age. It was an incredible, heady time. We all remember how...
Charles' challenge.
Repetition of time.
No, was it?
Actually, I don't think it was now. Sorry, Miles.
My teens began.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm getting a bit old, you see, now. So,
you were just saying you weren't a moment
sorry,
ago.
I know. Well, it was all a lie. It was all deviation.
So, Miles, an incorrect challenge. You have 22 seconds, and you've still got the subject of my teens starting now.
My teens, although relatively recent, have begun to seem an incredibly long time ago. My hair is receding, it is also greying, and I have 2 youngsters who run around whenever I attempt to sleep or wake up, or attend to even the most basic of bodily functions.
Charles' challenge.
Well, he hesitated then.
I think
after
he
bodily
ran to a
functions.
halt, didn't he? It sounded as if you were suffering a bit.
Well, I suddenly started thinking about how nice it would be to be alone or asleep. And
Charles,
I drifted off into reverie.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that one and say you have the subject of... and you've cleverly got in with only 3 seconds to go.
You brute.
And you've got 3 seconds on my teens, starting now.
I was very lucky that my teens were a golden age for me when I had a full...
So Charles Collingwood was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so, and has increased his lead at the end of that round. He's 2 ahead of Miles, Jupp and Pam Ayres, and more so of Paul Merton. And Paul, you begin the next round, and the subject is a bizarre subject. What I do when I'm not here. Can you tell us something about that in this game, starting now?
I walk on the ground like normal people. I don't climb 15 feet up in the air on some minor 6-foot-wide platform where I can't even concentrate on what I'm doing because I'm so fully aware of the exact height that I am up in the air. That's what I'm doing when I'm not here. I've never been to this place before, so what I'm doing when I'm not here has been the rest of my life up to now. I remember when I was 11 years old at Hampton, I was at the top of a helter-skelter. I looked down and I thought to myself, I'm glad I haven't got vertigo. At that very moment, I got it, and I've got it still now, and here I am, talking to you in the middle of this mindset of madness. Just let me down.
Pam, you've challenged.
I did. I thought that Paul repeated "got it."
Yes, I don't care.
You did, Pam, and you've got a correct challenge. And you've got 22 seconds to tell us something about what I do when I'm not here, starting now.
When I'm not here, I work out in the gym and do punishing exercises on the power plate and the rowing machine and the and I do. Oh,
Charles, yes.
We had an in there.
Had an as well, right. And so, Charles, you've got 11 seconds to tell us something about what I do when I'm not here, starting now.
What I do when I'm not here is miss you all so much.
Pam, Charles.
I don't believe that's true. No, I think
Neither
that's
to the audience, they booed.
No, I think that's a blatant lie.
This isn't a court of law, it's a panel game.
It's very difficult to judge on that. He may miss them all very much. On the other hand, he's never met them all
No,
before.
he's never met them
probably,
before.
How could he miss them if he's never met them, most of them before?
Quite
He only
so.
knows about 4 or 5 people in this audience. And 2 of them are his friends. He might miss them. No, Pam, I think I must give you the benefit of the doubt on this.
Thank you.
And tell you have 8 seconds to talk on what I do when I'm not here, starting now.
I lift knee-cracking weights, and I also do abdominal crunches, press-ups, triceps dips.
So Pam Ayres was then speaking of the whistle when gained that extra point, and she's moved forward. She's now equal with Charles Collingwood in the lead, and they're about 3 or 4 ahead of Miles, Jupp and Paul Merton. And Miles, it's your turn to begin. The subject is the perfect packed lunch. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
The perfect packed lunch is one when the items have been placed in the said container by another person. They may include cheese, ham, bacon, otter, turkey, tomatoes, seaweed, samphire, pickles, crispy lettuce, radicchio.
He did hesitate, and, you know, otter isn't the perfect packed lunch, but it may be to you. We've never met before, Miles, unlike I have the entire audience here.
I don't think he hesitated. He was going at a measured pace there. But are you having him for deviation on otter?
Yes, if you don't think he hesitated, but he came to a stop.
But I think it might be his perfect packet lunch. I think you might enjoy having
Yes.
otter. Are you an otter fan? Have you ever eaten otter?
I've got to be honest, I haven't ever
Well, then
eaten
you're talking
otter.
rubbish, aren't you? You could have saved yourself then.
I could have saved myself. Well, there's a difference. I can either have this point, or I could say on the radio, "I eat otter all the time." I don't know what sort of reaction you think that would get from people.
Fairly bloody.
All right, Charles, I'm going
Perhaps it
to...
could have been
That's
a misunderstanding when you were younger. Your mother might have said, "How was your lunch?" You said, "I would have preferred it if it was a little otter." And then...
So give Paul a bonus point for that, because we enjoyed it very, very much indeed. Charles, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt on your challenge and say you have now 39 seconds to tell us something about the perfect packed lunch, starting now.
Well, of course, you won't be surprised that the perfect packed lunch for me comes in a wicker hamper prepared...
Miles' challenge.
I'm absolutely shocked. I am reeling, Charles.
So we enjoyed your interruption, Miles. Get a bonus point to Miles for that. Charles, you were interrupted, and so it could be your perfect packed lunch. We don't know, do we? And you have now 34 seconds, starting now.
The ingredients being put in this container by my Batman, because, of course, I am a serving officer in the army,
Paul, challenge.
No hesitation.
No, yes, and not only, I think, a deviation. I mean, I listen to the archers. You're not a serving officer there.
But I love uniforms.
Paul, you have the subject. 27 seconds available. The perfect packed lunch, starting now.
The perfect packed lunch is one that is laid out on the ground. And people can sit around and say, "I feel secure on terra firma. I have no worries at all. Look at this beetroot. It has been carved by the Duke of Northumberland into the shape of Tony Hancock. What a magnificent piece of food to have at a picnic." I remember once I was standing outside Epsom Racecourse, hoping that my mother was going to win the 3:30, when suddenly I realised in my hands...
So, Paul, with a burst of energy there, kept going till the whistle went, gained an extra point. And it's very interesting into this round because Charles Collingwood and Pam Ayres are equal in the lead, but they're only 2 points ahead of Miles, Jupp and Paul Merton, who are equal in second place. Charles, it's your turn to begin. Oh, a nice topical subject. Cheese rolling. They know about that up in this part of the world. They look like a lot of cheese rollers to me, actually. So, Charles, that's the subject. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
When I got to a certain age where more physical sports I had to put away, I thought of taking up bowls, but decided on cheese rolling. And now, in the south of it...
Pam, challenge.
I thought there was a hesitation
Not
there.
quite, I don't
no?
think, Pam.
Oh, blow.
No,
All right.
No, I think he was going at a measured pace. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and if I can address it later, you'll have it as well.
Thank you very much.
So, Charles, you have still 51 seconds on cheese rolling, starting now.
Whenever the weather is nice, I can be found on the South Downs with a round cheese, rolling it along the grass, having such fun, until such time that a couple of...
Pam Challenge.
A repetition of such.
That's right, you got it right this time, Pam. And you have 41 seconds. And you have 41 seconds. Cheese rolling starting now.
Cheese rolling is an honourable profession carried out in this part of the world where people...
Charles Challenge.
It's not a profession to roll cheese.
Yes, it is.
Oh, no, it's not. Oh, fair enough.
Well, I think the audience have endorsed that one for you, Charles. I mean, you can call it a profession if you like. They do it in a very professional way, and you can say that, and that's Pam's interpretation of it, so we get to have the benefit of the doubt. I gave it to you last time. I've now redressed the balance, Pam. You got the benefit, and you have 35 seconds with another point, of course. Cheese rolling starting now.
Roll delicious local cheeses down vertical mountains, followed by people with broken arms and legs. No, I spluttered. Sorry.
Charles, you came in first.
I'm afraid she hesitated.
Yes,
I
you did.
did,
Yes,
I did.
27 seconds with you, Charles. Back with cheese rolling starting now.
What fun it is, isn't it, to roll this cheese along the...
Miles Challenge.
Was the word it, either in full or compounded form, repeated? What fun it is isn't. What fun it is it not? What fun it is isn't it? So you've got an it in there again.
You are being delightfully pedantic.
Well,
And you're probably correct, but I don't listen for those sort of things. I mean, but he did say it's before, quite right. Yes, well listened. Right. So take over cheese rolling with 23 seconds to go, Miles, starting now.
The first holiday that I ever went on with my family was a cheese rolling expedition in Norfolk. It was not an enormous success at all. The holiday had been booked by my mother, who had no idea how few hills there were in that particular part of the country.
Paul Challenge.
Did we have holiday before?
Yes, you did. Yes. So, Paul, you got in with 8 seconds to go on cheese rolling, starting now.
Brie is the most difficult cheese of all to roll because it's extremely soft and does not take very well to hard conditions. However, if you're looking for the king of cheese...
So, Paul Merton, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's 1 behind Charles Collingwood and 2 behind our leader, who is Pam Ayres, who also begins the next round. Pam, the subject now is beards. Can you tell us something about beards in this game, starting now?
I have never felt particularly drawn to men with beards, be it a soul patch, goatee, or enormous effulgence of black wiry hair. One question always occurs, and it is this: Irish stew. How can a man feed cleanly into the thicket onions, carrots, grease, gravy, bread, butter, etc., without dire smears of the food appearing all over the whiskers? Bring on the trumper's shaving foam and the strop and the cutthroat razor. If he be Captain Birdseye or Long John Silver, leave him be, but otherwise swathe him with a shroud and lay about the blackguard. Yes, how can any woman allow herself to be approached by a man with such a vile mass?
So Pam Ayres started with the subject and kept going magnificently and very humorously until the whistle went. Gained an extra point for speaking as the whistle went, and a bonus point for not being interrupted. And she's also increased her lead at the end of the round. Oh, yes, she's 3 ahead of Charles Collingwood and 4 ahead of Paul Merton and 5 ahead of Miles Jupp. So, Paul, we're back with you to begin. The subject now is car boot sales. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Car boot sales, you see them advertised wherever you go in the country. Car boot sales here.
Pam Challenge.
I'm really sorry, but there was a repetition of you.
Yes.
Car boot sales, you see them, you something else.
Oh, yes. Gosh, you're determined to win, aren't you, darling? Oh, that was very naughty of me. I only said that to get a laugh.
I usually come last. This is a historic occasion.
Yes. It's now your subject. car boot sales, 56 seconds starting now.
A friend of mine took a load of garn.
Charles challenge.
She hesitated.
I didn't.
You did.
No, I did not. Did I?
I think I should give the benefit of the doubt to Pam on this occasion. Because it wasn't quite strong enough for a hesitation. So, Pam, you still have 52 seconds for car boot sales starting now.
On a rail to the sale, and people came up to her and tried on some of the clothes while another one distracted her by saying...
Miles challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, and too many hers, right.
Yeah, I did 2 hers.
43 seconds with you, Miles, on car boot sales starting now.
In 1994, I bought something incredible from a car boot sale. It was an accordion that was decorated on one side with floral wallpaper and on the other with pictures of cowboys. It has a beautiful tune that it plays if you pull it out slowly and then back in again, slightly faster. My son recently found it and said, "Is this a toy?" and let go of it. It broke. "It isn't a toy," I said. "It's my accordion, you've broken it."
All challenged. Yes.
Repetition of toy.
Yes, you mentioned a toy there.
It's not even true.
Paul, you have a correct challenge. You have 15 seconds. Car boot sales starting now.
And I'm sorry I haven't a clue. Many years ago, Willie Rushton was given the phrase, "Don't get your knickers in," to complete, and he came up with a car boot sale, which I thought was an extraordinarily witty thing to say at that particular time. Car boot sales have become more popular as the economy goes down the drain. We're all going there these days.
I've just had a message that we're moving into the final round.
Oh, crumbs.
Let me give you the situation as we go into the final round. Well, Miles Jupp, who hasn't played the game as much as the others, but he's in a very strong 4th position. And he's only 1 point to see behind Charles Collingwood, who hasn't played it greatly, but does very well. Yes, he's worth an ooh. And just ahead of him is Paul Merton, and 3 points ahead of Paul is Pam Ayres, who's still in the lead. But it's Miles, it's your turn to begin. The subject now is first nights. Tell us something about first nights in this game starting now.
Laurence Olivier, it was told me by the actor Tony Gardner, said of first nights that the nerves that go through an actor's body would kill a normal man. I agree with this sentiment.
Pam challenged.
I just thought there was a hesitation.
I think there was. I think he thought about it and he almost came to a halt, didn't he?
Oh, sorry, Miles.
Well, I said the word Lawrence wrong, and I think I said Laurence, who was in his own way a great actor, but often overlooked by people who preferred his close cousins to Lawrence.
We're getting absolutely off into the world of the surreal here. Pam, it was Pam who challenged first, wasn't it?
Yes.
So, Pam, you tell us something about first nights, and you have 50 seconds in which to do it, starting now.
They can be discussed in 2 contexts, the marriage one or the theatrical one.
Yeah, there were too many ones there, Pam. So, first nights is with you, Charles. 43 seconds, starting now.
None of you will have experienced a first night like a professional actor does. It is quite...
Paul challenged.
I have.
I wasn't talking to him, I was talking to the audience. Oh, none of it. Oh, I see, yes.
None of you.
No, Paul has a correct challenge. And he has 38 seconds on first nights, Paul, starting now.
The cinema we're in now has been refurbished. Its very first night was in 1932. I understand there have been floods in this area over the years. If they reach the height of 15 feet, I'll be able to float off this stage quite happily out into the foyer. And that would be a first night for me. First nights can be very scary because you're not sure whether your play or production is right. The critics come in, it's too late to change. They are standing there, they sit down, you see the pens. Some of them have lights in them so you can see them writing in the dark. You walk on.
Biles challenge.
C?
Yes, you did repeat
That's
C.
repetition
Right.
of C.
Yes, sure.
Yes, you're right. Well, those are the rules of the game, audience. So, Miles, you've got him with 10 seconds to go on first nights, starting now.
The most nerve-wracking first night that I ever experienced was the play A Day in the Death of Joe Egg at the Glasgow Citizens Theatre, in which I appeared as the character Bry. Nobody laughed for the entire first half.
What a sombre note on which to bring the show to an end. But what an interesting result we have, because Miles Jupp and Charles Collingwood are equal in 3rd place. but they're only 1 point behind Paul Merton, who's in second place. But out in the lead, a few points ahead, was Pam Ayres. So we say, Pam, you are the winner this week. So it now remains me to give you the final situation. Miles Jupp and Charles Collingwood, who haven't played quite so much before, came equal in third place. And only 1 point ahead, so it was awfully fair, was Paul Merton. But 3 points ahead of them was Pam Ayres. So we say, Pam, you are our winner this week. It only remains me to say thank you to these four fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Charles Collingwood, Pam Ayres and Miles Jupp. I thank Sharon Leonard, who's kept the score for me and blown her whistle with such delicacy when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we're indebted to our producer, Claire Jones. We're deeply indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here at the Regal Cinema, recently reopened in the Evesham. And they've cheered us on our way wonderfully. We've enjoyed ourselves. So from our audience, from Neil Nicholas Parsons and the team, goodbye, thank you, and tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons. And as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in Great Britain, but also around the world. But also to welcome to the programme four distinguished and talented performers who are going to show their skill by talking on the subject that I give them and trying to do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Janey Godley, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Hannibal Buress. Would you please welcome all four of them? And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the BBC tent up here in Potter Row, which is part of the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. And we have a lovely Fringe audience in front of us as we start the show with Paul Merton. Paul, oh, a lovely topical subject. My favourite pastime in Edinburgh. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
My favourite pastime here in Edinburgh is to play Just a Minute. The other pastime that I seem to be indulging in these days is buying electrical goods for the people whose flat I'm renting over the years. This morning I got rid of their electric kettle by presuming it was a one that you put on the oven cooker. Oh no. Basically, I thought I put an electric kettle on the gas on the hob. It caught fire. Made a lovely cup of tea, though. I had to put it out. I bought another one at a leading department store in Edinburgh.
Have you been doing too much recently?
I have been doing too much.
Giles, you challenged?
Hesitation.
Yes, hesitation
Absolutely.
and deviation as well, I don't know.
Yes.
Right, Giles gets a point for that, takes over the subject, and there are 42 seconds left. My favourite pastime in Edinburgh, Giles, starting now.
My favourite pastime in Edinburgh used to be walking the streets of this extraordinary city, admiring the statues of people like Arthur Conan Doyle, Sir Walter Scott, Robert Louis Stevenson, and other sundries from the literary heritage of this remarkable place. But recently I have discovered the zoo. And there the joys are manifold. I am a friend of Professor Andrew Whiten of St Andrews University, an academic institution associated with...
Hesitation.
Yeah.
Yes, well, there was somebody in the audience. Hesitate.
Yes, but it's my Harry met Sally moment. It happens occasionally, you know how it is.
Yours seemed to be a group effort, though.
You electrified somebody in the audience. They said I had an orgasmic experience. Anyway, yes,
You
Paul.
said it, Nicholas. I just felt it.
Radio 4, gentlemen, Radio 4.
Yeah.
50 Shades of Grey, indeed.
Indeed. No, I don't think it was quite as strong as that book.
Okay.
Right. But, yes,
Oh, you've
correct.
read it, have you? Some people say it's based on you.
No, I didn't need to read it.
No.
I felt I'd experienced it all anyway, right? Paul, a correct challenge, so you have the subject back. My favourite pastime in Edinburgh. 15 seconds available, starting now.
Undoubtedly, my favourite pastime in Edinburgh is to walk around this magnificent city, up the hills, find a beautiful view across the cityscape.
Janey, challenge.
Twice.
Cityscape, one word.
Oh, sorry.
What was your challenge,
I
Johnny?
thought it was city, but you did say cityscape.
No, cityscape, that's not...
I said city and cityscape, but that's not repetition, is it?
I don't think cityscape is one word. It's
Oh, isn't it?
It's 2 words. What if I ask the audience?
Like landscape's one word. Seascape's one word. One word.
Well, the audience seem to think it's one word, so
Yeah.
get the benefit of the doubt. So an incorrect challenge. Another point to you, Paul. My favourite pastime in Edinburgh. 6 seconds starting now.
Hiring high-class strippers for Nicholas Parsons.
Oh, Gyles, challenge.
Repetition of high.
Oh, yes, because he was talking about going high before,
Yeah.
wasn't
Yes,
he?
you're absolutely
Yes, right, yes.
Not deviation, however, but...
You were working up to that, weren't
Yes,
you?
indeed.
I was getting quite excited, actually.
It was going
They've got a bucket of water standing by.
Giles, you've got him with 2 seconds to go. And you have a correct challenge. And you have 2 seconds. And my favourite pastime in Edinburgh, starting now.
St Giles's Cathedral is the place to go.
So at the end of that round, Paul, Merton and Giles Brandreth spoke quite a lot and gained some points. And we're moving on now to Janey Godley to begin the next round. Janey, you are our Scottish representative up here in Scotland. And this is a lovely one for you. The Scottish accent. Tell us something about that. Starting now.
My Scottish accent has been forged in the hills, the fields, the wheat, the peat. The many people who have made my sing-song tone make so melodious in every part of the world. When I say I'm a comedian, folk ask Canadian. I have to correct them so many times. Aggressiveness is also something that is associated with my beautiful language. If I swear in my language, I sound like I mean it.
Giles, challenge.
It was so mellifluous, I hated to interrupt, but I think there was a repetition of language.
There was a repetition of language. What a pity. Because she was going so well and we were enjoying it. Giles, you had a correct challenge, so you've got 31 seconds. The Scottish accent starting now.
If, like me, you were brought up in the 1960s, you will have enjoyed on television on a Sunday evening Dr. Finlay's Casebook, starring the great Bill Simpson and the even greater Andrew Cruikshank, who played the part of Cameron, the older of the 2 medical men. Janet, is Snoddy ready? We've got to get to Tannock Brae before the sun sets. It was there that I learnt to do my impression of Nicholas Parsons trying to raise himself from...
So Giles Brandreth was again speaking as the whistle when gained that extra point. He's increased his lead at the end of the round. And Hannibal, we've come to you, and I mean like you, to begin the next round. And I think it's very apt and very helpful to us too. It says, my first name. So could you take your first name as a subject and tell us something about it starting now?
My first name is Hannibal. I was named after the Carthaginian general who used elephants to attack people.
Is someone going to challenge? I mean, you didn't actually pause then. You came to a full stop.
That's my pace.
I know. It's not going to be very helpful to you in just a minute.
Okay, yeah.
But you have to keep going, because if you
Yeah.
hesitate, you'll be challenged,
Yeah.
and you'll lose it.
Yeah.
And you have to listen to others doing it and get in again then, Hannibal. Right, so Paul, you had a correct challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, 45 seconds. Hesitation, full stop.
Yes.
So it wasn't there for a hesitation, really, was it? It was a grinding to a halt.
Yes, he didn't start talking again, so technically speaking, he hadn't hesitated, he had stopped. Which isn't against the rules.
No. So should we give him the benefit of the doubt?
give him the
Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. So, Hannibal, we've reinterpreted the rules to help you. So you stopped, which is not one of the rules of just a minute. And so you have the benefit of the doubt with the connivance of all the other 3 players. And you continue without hesitation, if you can. My first name, starting now.
It is very weird to be called this. I used to wish that people...
Paul started.
Well, it is very difficult, but there's hesitation.
There was hesitation.
That was repetition and hesitation.
My darling boy, you actually hesitated as you started. You said, right, then you went off.
Yeah.
Such a lovely accent as well. We're loving it, aren't we?
Absolutely.
We're loving him, actually, if I may say so.
Yeah.
Natural presidential candidate, I think. I'm going to keep in with him.
Right. So who challenged? It was you, Paul, wasn't it? Right. 39 seconds available. My first name starting now.
My first name is Paul, as is evident by the fact that's what people call me. I don't know if I've ever been particularly struck.
Gyles challenged.
You think that's what people call you?
So had that said to me by Gyles Brandreth, of all people.
I know.
It had to happen eventually.
Gyles, utterly outrageous. I tell you what, it had a very nice reaction from the audience, so I'll give you a bonus point because of what you said. But Paul was interrupted, so he gets a point for that, and he keeps the subject, my first name, and there are 33 seconds available starting now.
I'd rather be called Jim, I think, which happens to be my middle name. James, Jimmy, Jamie. It's a name that has a certain amount of versatility, whereas my own given name as it is can't really do much with it. You can make it Paulie, I suppose, but that then sounds like you're not very well. Whereas the one I was referring to earlier is a magnificent name. We think of the great kings in history. There was the first and then the second, and they were magnificent monarchs.
Janey challenged.
Magnificent?
Yes.
Yes, there's too much magnificence there. And Janey, you've cleverly got in with 4 seconds to go.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. My first name, and that is the subject, and you have 4 seconds starting now.
My first name for many years was Egypt. That's what my mother liked to call me.
So Janey Godley got the point for speaking then as the whistle went.
She just said this is the first point she's ever got in the programme. That can't be right.
She's got 2 points
Oh,
here.
there we are.
You've been on before, my darling, and you've done very well in the past, and you're doing well now. You've got 2 points there. Paul and Gyles have got 4 apiece. You're only 2 points behind the leader. Hannibal's yet to score, but we're waiting. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is the person next to me. So will you tell us something about the person next to me? 60 seconds starting now.
The person next to me is Janey Godley, who is a bit of an Edinburgh stalwart here. Her shows on the Fringe are unforgettable, although I've never actually seen one. For me, they are. And I think it's absolutely wonderful that she is up here amongst the forefront of the performers that come from all over the world at this international version of the Arts Olympics. She is one of the great female stand-ups that this country has produced in the last few years. If we go back to perhaps, let's see, about 25 decades ago, that was a long time. So let's not go back as far as that.
All right, Gyles challenge.
Repetition of going back.
Going back, yes.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Gyles, you've gone in first. 28 seconds. The subject is the person next to me, starting now.
The person next to me is physically very attractive. He is a kind of Usain Bolt of comedy. When he leaves the starting block, he moves so quickly, you think he's actually paused. He hasn't. He's over the finishing line already. It doesn't take him 10 seconds to get going. He's gone. 9:45 is the time to catch him at Pleasance upstairs. He wears a comedy hat because he's a very funny guy, and has spectacles too. On my other side, the person next to me...
Paul challenged.
Was this like and the spectacles too? We went a bit Italian at the end. And the spectacles too. Didn't you hear it?
Spectacles too?
And the spectacles too. I'm exaggerating now.
You are.
This is the International Olympics of Comedy. I was therefore doing a bit of Italian,
I
perhaps.
thought we went a bit Italian. Is that not against the rules?
No, he was doing a little what is called alliteration, running one word
alliteration.
into another word,
I
which the
see.
French do a lot. And he's just come back from Paris, as he told us.
Explain it.
But it doesn't help when you do it with English.
Yeah.
No, I think, Paul, I've got to be fair to Gyles and say you have... Oh, yes, especially as there's only half a second to go. So, Gyles, you still have half a second. The person next to me starting now.
Hannibal Buress!
So Gyles was speaking as the whistle went and increased his lead over Paul, Merton, Janey Godley and Hannibal Buress in that order. And Hannibal, it's your turn to begin. The subject now is Edinburgh Nights, and there are 60 seconds available, starting now.
I've spent many nights in Edinburgh, very late ones. I stay out till 5 in the morning and I drink lots of liquor. Liquor affects...
Giles challenge.
Repetition of liquor.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm also worried, in loco parentis, Hannibal has come here all the way from Chicago. I'm a friend of his parents. I'm very distressed to hear you're drinking and staying up all night.
I don't know what you think the sort of Edinburgh Festival is, but certainly staying up all night and drinking has never been part of it.
You have to get to bed really early, get up and go around and look at all the art galleries and chat to every single flyer that you meet. That's what we do here.
Yeah, that's right, yes. So what was your challenge, Giles?
Repetition of the word liquor.
Oh, yes, he did repeat liquor, didn't
Yeah.
he? Yes. Right,
I
well,
should've said-
Giles,
yeah.
will you take over the subject? We've got Edinburgh Nights with you, and there are 49 seconds available starting now.
One of the treats of Edinburgh Nights is that they always begin with a visit to see the show presented by Nicholas Parsons, an iconic figure in British entertainment, who made his first movie in 1946 and for whom Hollywood now beckons, thanks to an excerpt from Hannibal's Hollywood Nights, a new movie that is being made at this very moment. How exciting it is for the host of our show, and indeed for this very gentleman on my right.
Paul challenge.
Are you saying this is being turned into a movie?
Yes.
I never even put makeup on.
No.
So what is your
It's a
challenge?
deviation.
Deviation,
from the art
yes.
of cinema as we know it.
I don't know, yes.
The
Paul,
film's called
I would
Hannibal
agree with you. I would
Hesitates.
agree with you. And there are 25 seconds available. Edinburgh Nights starting now.
Edinburgh Nights, because we are so much further north than the south, the nights come in a little later. There is more daylight. The Edinburgh night kicks in just before 10 o'clock. You look up into the sky and you see sometimes, if you're lucky, meteorites tracing beautifully illuminated paths across the black velvet firmament. Am I the only one here who thinks, what have I been drinking? Yes, it is magnificent.
Right. So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went. He gained an extra point for doing so, and at the end of that round he's in the lead. And Janey, we're back with you to begin, and the subject now is predicting the future. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
I can predict the future and did so by speaking to my husband of 32 years, not age time served, explaining to him that as I advance, I am about to hit my menopause, so he can now expect anger, fear, determination, erratic sexual impulses, hot and cold sweats, shouting, screaming, not the good kind, being difficult in the house, telling people everything I think about them in a really loud voice, like I have a personality disorder. He said, the future looks bleak. Isn't that what you are just now already? My answer to him was, the future is going to be a wonderful place. I'm going to start baking cupcakes, wearing an apron, turn into Doris Day. Stews will be in order. I will knit, start petting small cats, being nice to animals, not shouting at priests or people of religion. This will be the change of life that will bring me forward.
Well, that doesn't often happen in just a minute. She started with the subject and kept going to the 60-second whistle went, and she wasn't interrupted, but she didn't need to be because she didn't hesitate, repeat anything, or deviate. And so she got a point for not being interrupted and a bonus point for still speaking when the whistle went.
Thank you.
So you're still in second place, darling, but you've done very well. But only 1 point behind our leader, Gyles, 1 point ahead of Paul, a few more ahead of Hannibal. And Hannibal, it's your turn to begin. The subject now is the British sense of humour. Have you absorbed anything about the British sense of humour since you've been here, Hannibal?
Yeah.
Don't darling, because it's bad in this day. Go on the subject of the British sense of humour without saying to begin
Without
with.
saying
Right,
and
right.
yeah. No.
Starting now.
The British sense of humor is very weird and dry. It's very weird. Oh no, that's repetition.
Hannibal, you can do it.
I feel like Rudy right now.
Giles, you're actually challenged. Why?
Oh, it was a nervous tick. I was so excited just to be so close to him. But there was a bit of repetition and a bit of hesitation, but no deviation. He was so on the money. So on the money.
So they want you to continue, Hannibal. And you have, oh God, how many? 54, oh God. You've still got 54 seconds. The British sense of humour starting now.
Here in the festival, the shows are reviewed. I wish that I could review the reviewers. That's repetition. Oh, man.
Actually, it wasn't repetition, but Janey, what are you challenged for?
It's quite a lot of word review was in there.
Actually, I said review, reviewed, and reviewers.
You did. I think you did.
Hannibal, I think we're going to have to settle this with an arm wrestle.
Right, they're going to be generous to you again, Hannibal, and say that you have 35 seconds, starting now.
Shows like The Office have translated into America, but we had to change them because we don't like the British sense of humor. But they still...
There was a hesitation.
There was a hesitation, yes. 24 seconds on the British sense of humour, starting now.
The British sense of humour, I think that was one of the wonderful things that came out of the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games. Who would have thought that Her Majesty the Queen would have agreed to be part of such an incredibly funny stunt of being thrown out of a helicopter, or jumping out, in fact. And I think this was wonderful that we could show the rest of the world that, OK, we are a tiny island who once had a magnificent empire, but we also have a great sense of humour about ourselves and about other people. And when we look at this tight little island of ours...
So Giles Brandreth, so Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and he's taken the lead alongside Giles Brandreth again, and they're just 1 point ahead of Janey, and Hannibal's got 1 point. But Giles, we're back with you to begin. A sellout, that's the subject. Can you tell us something about a sellout, starting now?
When I first appeared on the stage, I was hoping for a sellout, but it was not to be. I essayed the role of the gloomy Dane in Shakespeare's most famous play. The audience threw eggs at me. I went on as Hamlet, came off as Omelette. It was no better when, a few years later, I returned to Edinburgh to appear in the Full Monty, my one-man show version. A sellout at the beginning of the evening, but an empty theatre at the end, with people demanding their money back. Some threw knickers at the stage, not in admiration, but for me to put on in a state of shame. Ultimately, though, I trod the boards here in an entertainment called Zip. We did 100 musicals in just as many minutes. The complete works of Andrew Lloyd Webber in 95 seconds. 70 on a good day. And people really enjoyed this and stood to cheer. Not necessarily me, because there was a cast of other players in this particular extravaganza. I do believe that I also hoped for a sellout when I played the part of the Chinese waiter in King Lear. My entrance...
So once again, even more unusual to have two complete rounds in the same show. And this time, Gyles started with a subject and finished with a subject. He got a point for speaking when the whistle went, and a bonus point for not being interrupted, because he didn't commit any of the sins of just a minute. And so, what's the situation? He's now increased his lead at the end of the round, just ahead of Paul Merton, and then Janey Godley, and then Hannibal. I nearly said Hannibal next, and then the Hannibal Buress. Paul, we're back with you to begin. The subject is rom-coms. Tell us something about those in this game, starting now.
Rom-com is short for romantic comedy. I suppose we think of films such as 4 Weddings and a Funeral, Bridget Jones's Diary as being rom-coms. If we go back further into movie history, we might consider such enterprises as the Philadelphia Story, starring Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant and James Stewart. That was very much a rom-com of its day. It's a very popular medium to put together two genres don't always necessarily fit together. We can think of comedy and horror, but also romance and comedy, comedy.
Giles, challenge first.
Hesitation.
Yes.
Yes, because he was trying to struggle out of saying comedy again. Giles, you've got 28 seconds still. Tell us something about rom-coms starting now.
I'm hoping that Jennifer Aniston will be playing my wife in the rom-com that is to be made of my life. And there is the possibility...
Paul, challenge.
Don't hold your breath.
Have you got a challenge within the rules of just a minute?
I don't particularly want one.
I'm going to give you a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption of what you said, and the audience applause endorsed that. But Giles, you weren't interrupted, so you get a point for that, and you have rom-com still, and you have 20 seconds starting now.
Recently, I was in Paris, France, where I saw a beautiful French rom-com, or rom-com, as they like to call it over there, directed by Sophie Lalouche. This film I recommend. It is entitled Paris, Manhattan, and features a girl...
Paul challenge.
Do we have Paris before when I was in Paris?
Yes, you mentioned you were in Paris before.
Oh, we
yes.
did?
Yes, that's
you
why I
did,
mentioned
yes.
it.
You did, yes.
We did.
You did well. Listen, Paul.
Yes.
And you've cleverly got him with 6 seconds to go on. Rom-coms with you, Paul. 6 seconds starting now.
My idea of a rom-com would be to see the pictorial life of Gyles Brandreth supported by one of the great actresses of our time.
So, Paul Merton, speaking as a whistle win, gained that extra point. It's very close there. He's only 1 point behind our leader, who is still Gyles Brandreth, then Janey, Godley and Hannibal Buress in that order. Janey, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is how to avoid catching a cold. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
I know how to avoid catching a cold. It involves wrapping yourself in bubble plastic, living in a cellar and not breathing Scottish air at any time of your entire life. Taking vegetables green like cabbage and kale, cybes, onions, vitamin C, vitamin D.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I see what I did.
Gyles, you challenge.
Repetition of vitamins.
Vitamins, yes.
And it was such good advice, too.
I know. We could have had
It's
more of it,
unusual
couldn't
for
it?
a Scot to be over-vitamined as well.
Gyles, 43 seconds are still available. Tell us about how to avoid catching a cold, starting now.
The real way to avoid catching a cold is to stay in bed for your entire life. So that you don't get lonely, you need a companion to chat to, preferably somebody who does not have a cold as well. I have been looking at the very handsome figure of Hannibal Buress on my right here. He is the man who wears spectacles and a hat and doesn't appear to have a cold, so would be a perfect companion under my duvet. Together, we could cuddle up and not get a cold. Of course, what you should do too...
Oh, sorry, Paul, you've challenged.
Do you want to get a hotel room or something?
Yes, but it's Edinburgh, height of the festival, so difficult.
Hannibal's looking incredibly terrified.
So he should.
I
He's
should
thinking
explain to our
Buress
listeners, I was looking at Hannibal then, and he didn't move a muscle. You were really petrified. You thought he was serious, didn't you?
I don't know. I just.
You'd opted out. You'd gone home, hadn't you?
This is not the time to hesitate, Hannibal. Just seize the moment. Deviation can come later and play your cards right. A bit of repetition before breakfast. Who knows? Wow.
That's the British sense of humour.
And there are 2 people here, or 3 people who express it very well, and the Scottish sense of humour is beautifully expressed by Janey. Paul, what was your challenge?
There was an urge to feel it should stop.
It was just humanity, wasn't
You see,
it?
it was basic humanity on my part.
Humanity, right. Well,
Deviation.
as it was humanity, and he was talking about Hannibal there, and Hannibal was really rather phased out, shall we be generous and let Hannibal take over the subject? And there are 13 seconds available, Hannibal. Tell us something about how to avoid catching a cold, starting now.
The way to not catch a cold is to just relax and take good care of yourself. Work out, do jumping jacks, jog, stay away from crazy people.
So Hannibal Buress was streaking as a whistle went for the first time. Gained that extra point, and we have a very fair result at the end. Hannibal Buress, who's never played the game before, did extremely well. I don't think he knows what the game's all about, but he did extremely well. And he finished in a very strong 4th place. Janey Godley, who always gives great value and representing the Scottish tradition, came in 3rd place. But equal in the lead, which was a very fair result for the 2 who are contribute so well and play the game so well, Paul Merton and Gyles Brandreth, equal leaders. So we say you are the winners this week. It only remains me to say thank you to these 4 delightful players of the game, Paul Merton, Janey Godley, Hannibal Buress and Gyles Brandreth. I thank Sharon Leonard, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so delicately. We're grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we're grateful to this lovely audience here at the Festival Fringe. So from them, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye, and tune in the next time we play Just a Minute! Yay! welcome to Just a Minute. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in Great Britain, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme four fantastic, exciting, talented performers who are going to show their skill with words and language as they try and talk for just a minute on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Jason Byrne, and seated on my left, Giles Brandreth and Tim Vine. Please welcome all four of them. Beside me sits Sharon Leonard, who's going to help me keep a score. She will blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the BBC tent up here in Potter Row, which is part of the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. And we have a lovely Fringe audience with us as we begin the show with Paul Merton. Paul, we'd like you to start on the subject of, a lovely Scottish subject, the joys of wearing a kilt. 60 seconds starting now.
I think there must be a Ken Dodd joke somewhere, the joys of wearing a kilt. Stand on your head and you look like a tartan shuttlecock. But the great thing about a kilt is letting the wind feel free amongst your nether regions. It wins!
Oh, Giles' challenge.
A bad challenge. I should have waited for the end of the S on the end of wind,
That's
shouldn't
right.
I? And I didn't. I was just too keen.
Wind and wins.
Wind and wins, no challenge at all.
No. He's clever. He's played the game before.
Yes.
He can go from singular to plural. Paul, an incorrect challenge. And you've cleverly evaded the lot, and you get a point, of course, for that. Keep the subject, the joys of wearing a kilt. 47 seconds starting now.
If any American tourist walks into one of the kilt establishments you see on Princes Street and asks if they have the Steinbeck tartan, they're often surprised to find that they do. And it's wonderful to be a member of the United States and think to yourself, I have traced my family history all the way back to lovely Scotland. Why can they never pronounce the word Edinburgh? It's always... Oh, no, I can't say it again. But, one of the things that always strikes me about wearing a kilt is the magnificent motorbikes that go by and drown out everything I say. I could be repeating, hesitating and deviation, but because of the noise of the internal combustion engine, nobody can be really sure what I've just said. But I tell you that wearing a kilt from me represents the finest example of manhood that these nations can show to the world. Oh, yes!
So, Paul Merton started with the subject and finished with it, and was speaking as a whistle when gains an extra point for doing so. And at the end of the round, of course, he is in a commanding lead over all the other three. Jason, will you start the next round? Pre-show nerves. I think we all know about them, but can you talk about them for 60 seconds if you can, starting now?
Pre-show nerves is a thing that many of us acts get before a show. I have been known to make a lot of noise before I head out on the stage. Now that I'm in my 40s, every movement I make during the backstage area...
Charles, your challenge.
Just sort of creeping hesitation. And eventually it got to us.
Do you know, Giles...
please, Giles, really, what, do you think so?
And a few repetitions.
Giles, no, there was no repetition, but Giles, I'm going to be generous and say that he was keeping at a measured pace. It was slow, but he didn't hesitate within the pace that he'd established.
Yeah. I was being more ghostly.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
The benefit of the doubt? Look at the audience. The benefit of the massive doubt.
Yeah. No, you're a newcomer. Benefit of the doubt. And you have 37 seconds to continue with a point, of course. Pre-show nerves starting now.
Every step I make in the dressing room has been... The word is hanging in front of me. I'm trying to get it out. I do apologise.
Not at all. You wouldn't believe that this person gets more words in every minute when he's working than anybody else. But this show certainly slows you down a bit, Jason.
Who was that?
And that was Paul.
It was hesitation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a
okay,
very
fair
definite
enough. It was
hesitation.
hesitation, for
So,
sure.
Paul, you've got a correct challenge. You have 32 seconds. Tell us something about pre-show nerves starting now.
Pre-show nerves, I think, are important, even with a show like Just a Minute, because I may have done it for several years now, but it's still important to get the adrenaline going before you make an appearance on the panel. When I first thought about doing this show, I suppose
Tim, you've challenged.
I think he said show twice. Was
He
that
did say
repetition?
show, yes.
Pre-show nerves.
But
No, you said show as well. You said show twice.
Yes, you know, but the thing is, Tim...
Oh, I see.
sorry, Tim,
But isn't pre-show hyphenated?
No, you're right, it is. It is. No,
It is hyphenated, but Tim, you haven't played it before. I'm afraid
No, I
you are
haven't.
allowed to repeat the words on the card, either as a phrase or individually again.
Oh, no, I did know that. I thought pre-show was a word.
No, it's a hyphenated word.
Yes.
Don't
get me wrong, I'm wishing I hadn't budged in now.
No, but actually,
he might be right.
He might be right.
He might be right.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I gave it to our other first.
I was afraid you were going to say
As pre-show is a hyphenated word,
Yeah.
and show he used individually, not hyphenated, you have the benefit of the doubt, Tim. And you have 18 seconds. Tell us something about pre-show nerves starting now.
Sometimes before a show, I physically shake with pre-show nerves. In actual fact, if you watch me now, you'll be able to see some of these symptoms on my face. My tweaks are beginning to cheek.
Charles, you challenged.
I've always called them tweaks, if you don't mind me saying so.
A touch of hesitation.
A definite hesitation. We'll go. So, Giles, I was unkind to you. No, I was tough with you before, but this time we give it to you. You have the correct challenge, a point, of course. 7 seconds on pre-show nerves starting now.
I always cope with pre-show nerves by smoking my pipe. Getting the right kind of shag in Edinburgh is always a problem. But nonetheless, I conquer it by going to a tobacconist.
So Giles Brandreth was then speaking the whistle when gained an extra point. He's now 1 point behind our leader, Paul Merton. The other two have a point apiece. And Tim Vine, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is my nickname. There are 60 seconds, as usual, starting now.
My nickname at school was Wurzel, because at the time I had lots of blonde hair that sort of slid off my head, looking like straw, and I had a slightly pointed nose. Actually, I still have that. But the thing that made me most like...
Oh, Giles, you challenge.
The thing, a little bit of hesitation.
Definite hesitation.
Yeah.
A double hesitation.
Well, I suppose so. It was the emotion of the story.
Yes.
was
the hyphenated?
It might be. Let's just check with Nicholas.
No, it wasn't. It was definitely hesitation. So, Giles, you have another point. You have 46 seconds. You tell us something about my nickname starting now.
When I was at school, my nickname was simply Sir. I felt this was perhaps a bit too deferential, and as the years went by, people began to call me Bottom, which was ridiculous. I thought it was a part in a play by Shakespeare. It turned out to be a euphemism for what they really thought. And as time has gone by, I now find I still have a nickname. My wife has taken to calling me Wenlock. This is because she really, I think, fell for the mascot of the wonderful Olympics that changed us all so recently. And also, she likes the way that I can look into the fridge and not actually see what I'm supposed to be finding there. I'd rather hoped...
Jason challenge.
Oh, is it a deviation? He's gone on about fridges.
Yes.
Yes. You're
Something's
way
got
away
fridges.
from your nickname. Absolutely. Well,
Yes.
listen, Jason, yes.
It's rubbish.
Oh, sorry, Giles. I'm just too nice for this game.
Yes.
No,
Is it
you-
a deviation?
Yeah, definitely
Yes.
deviation.
Okay,
And you've got
thank you.
9 seconds only.
Yes.
So keep going at a measured pace.
Yes, got it.
My nickname starting now.
My nickname in school was Nestles because I looked like the Milky Bar kid. Many children would say, "Hey, you look like that kid with the cowboy hat and the..."
So Jason Byrne was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's now equal with Paul Merton and Giles Brandreth. All three are equal in the lead. 2 points ahead of Tim Vine. Giles, you would take the next round. What my horoscope predicted today. 60 seconds starting now.
I am proud to say that I'm a personal friend of Russell Grant. And as a consequence of this, every morning I receive from the aforementioned astrologer an extraordinary email telling me what is going to happen to me during the forthcoming 24 hours. So, early this day, I received information that I would be joining a group of people...
Gyles is challenged.
No, he couldn't have done. He's talking.
I know. What is your
That's what
challenge?
Russell told me. My challenge isn't really my challenge, it's the challenge of the BBC electricity.
Then, Tim, you've
this
got
ever
a
happened?
challenge.
Well, I've now buzzed in for a very long hesitation, if that was your challenge.
Yeah, that's all right. So, Tim, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt there. And you have 37 seconds starting now.
What my horoscope predicted today is that I would get up, leave the house, get into a car and come to a game show called Just a Minute. It was an extraordinarily accurate prediction because here I am. What it also said was that I'd have a slow start, and believe me, I'm aware of that. I have to make an admission and a confession at this point. I actually think that what my horoscope said today was total rubbish. And it's only since I've been here that I've discovered, in actual fact, it was totally true.
Paul challenged.
Sadly, a repetition of totally.
Too much of totally.
Total rubbish and
Totally
totally...
true.
Was it two totallys?
Two totallys,
I'm
yes.
teetotally.
Oh, right. And you've got him with 3 seconds to go, Paul.
Oh!
But that's the game, Tim. Sorry. What my horoscope predicted today, Paul, starting now.
You will be approached by a tall, dark man with silver hair who will ask you to do things.
So, Paul Merton was speaking at the whistle when gained that extra point, has increased his lead at the end of that round, 2 ahead of Jason Byrne and Giles Brandreth and 3 ahead of Tim Vine. And Jason, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is, if I were a fly on the wall, 60 seconds starting now.
If I were a fly on the wall, I'd make sure I'd be in Roger Federer's dressing room just after he played Andy Murray, and I'd ask him, why did you let Andy Murray win that?
It's hard.
Giles, you
But there's more than one Andy Murray. It was Andy Murray, and it was his little cousin I was talking about.
But it's the words you use, and it's a repetition
God, I
of
try
words.
so hard.
Giles, your challenge?
A repetition of Andy Murray.
Andy Murray, yes,
Yes,
right.
yes.
You have 49 seconds. Tell us something about if I were a fly on the wall, starting now.
If I were a fly on the wall, I would be very high up so that nobody could spot me. And the wall on which I would like to be a fly is that of Nicholas Parsons in the flat that he takes in Edinburgh. For to see him dressing in the morning would be an extraordinary and remarkable event. Adjusting the toupee tape, first of all, before placing that wonderful silver sheen upon the top of his
deviation.
box. Then...
Jason!
Nicholas, at the suggestion of toupee tape, has said it's deviation. It comes out. It actually comes out of a tin. It comes out of a tin, doesn't it, Nicholas?
Yeah, that's right.
That's the deviation you were talking about.
Yeah, that's the deviation.
Well done, Jason.
Okay, well done, me.
Yes, well done, you, yes.
Thank you, Uncle
were
Nicholas.
quick.
Thank you for helping me again.
You were
Nobody realises we're family.
You were so quick on that challenge.
I was so quick on it, yes.
Yes.
Toupee,
Deviation,
Giles.
the toupee. You want to come and tug at it, are you sure? Jason, you had a correct challenge. It was deviation. You have 23 seconds. If I were a fly on the wall, starting now.
Why did you let Andy Murray beat... What? If I were flying the wall, is that what?
You've repeated Andy Murray. Repeated Andy Murray. It doesn't matter whether it's his cousin, his uncle.
No!
It's Andy Murray. You said Andy Murray again.
Oh, I thought if I started again, it was fine.
No.
Oh, that's like reading a book and and going back to the
But Jason, we'll be generous because you didn't know that.
Yeah, okay.
But
sorry.
you cannot repeat what
I
you've
know,
already
I know.
said, even if it's a different section.
I'll now slow my brain down.
So Paul has been very generous because you
Thank
did have
Paul.
a correct challenge.
Thank you, all my uncles.
Yeah. 19 seconds are still available. If I were a fly on the wall, starting now.
If I were a fly on the wall, I would look down on those 2 tennis players and...
Paul challenge.
Deviation.
Why?
He didn't say Andy Murray. Did he say it? I missed it. For me, it's become a catchphrase, one of those golden moments I could live again and again.
So, Paul, we'll give you a bonus point for that because he deserves it because it was a wonderful
I really
reaction.
don't know what's happening now, and I thought I knew the rules.
But, Jason, you were interrupted, so you get a point.
Yes.
And you keep the subject. If I were a fly on the wall, and there are 15 seconds starting now.
The Swiss man said because I can't stand him crying anymore in front of me, that's why I let him... Oh, no! What is wrong with my face? It's like I've got somebody else's mouth and somebody else's tongue. That's a repetition of
Gyles, you
someone.
challenge first.
So don't have that.
Hesitation.
Yes, hesitate. Gyles, there are 7 seconds still available. You tell us something about If I Were a Fly on the Wall, starting now.
If I were to fly on the wall, my eyes would pop out as the aforementioned chairman of our beautiful game.
Tim, challenge.
Was there just the tiniest hesitation on aforementioned?
No.
Okay, I'll just check it.
No, Tim, well tried, but it wasn't.
No hyphen either. No hyphen either.
I apologise.
I must be fair within the rules of just a minute. Right, of course. So, Gyles, you've got 2 seconds to go on If I Were a Fly on the Wall, starting now.
He pulled on his string vest, and through it I was able to see the wonderful hair.
So Giles Brandreth was then talking. There's a whistle when gained an extra point. He's creeping up on our leader, Paul Merton, who's 2 ahead of him. They're both a few points ahead of Jason Byrne and Tim Vine in that order. And Tim, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is, we want a Scottish subject, and we've got one here. Scottish dancing. Tell us something about Scottish dancing in this game, starting now.
When I was at school, we did Scottish dancing. I know if you looked at me, you'd probably think that is not the physique that lends itself to that particular activity. But nonetheless, I did it. I had to put on a kilt, and I had to do a strange move that involved lifting one knee in front of the other, and then lifting up my foot left of the other foot, and then lots of feet were involved.
Yes, Giles.
Foot and then another foot.
Yes. There was a lifting as well that they were very kind to ignore.
They let the lifting go, but he had it on the foot.
But I always think that the early part of the round's not the important bit.
No.
42 seconds for you, Giles, on Scottish dancing, starting now.
When I was recently staying at Balmoral, I discovered that the Gay Gordons does not quite live up to its name. I was hoping for some gin and for some light petting with some of the people that were there. Unfortunately, all we did...
Tim, you've challenged.
There were 3 sums there.
Well done. Well done. Some gin, some this, some that.
Oh, of course.
Yes. So, Tim, you've got 29 seconds. You've got in again on Scottish dancing, starting now.
Scottish dancing lifts the spirits. Let's make no bones about it. As you're involved in it, you suddenly begin to imagine yourself being in Scotland, surrounded by the local folk, dreaming up wonderful things that make you wonder to yourself if, in fact, they could actually happen in real life. For example, I remember once when I was taking part in this beautiful musical thing, I discovered that... Thank heavens for that! Goodness sake! Oh, that was like... I felt like a car crash in slow motion. I just want Jason to hug me now.
Oh, we enjoyed it.
Yes, it was good. It's the way to do it.
Yeah, yes. I mean, you should have seen the audience's face here. They were watching.
I can see them.
Yeah. They were watching the contortions on your face, which were wonderful. But Paul, you challenged.
There was a hesitation.
Yes, definitely. We give it that one. And you've gone in with 3 seconds to go.
Oh, again! Twice I've got up to 3 seconds. And not... if that counts for anything. It doesn't, does it?
No. Scottish dancing with you, Paul Merton, starting now.
The very important thing to recognise and remember about Scottish dancing is you put 2 swords...
So Paul Merton, speaking as a whistle, when gained that extra point, has increased his lead at the end of the round. Gyles, we're with you to begin, and the subject is weather forecasts. Tell us something about those in this game, starting now.
The extraordinary thing about watching weather forecasts on television is that you can sit there for minutes on end, apparently concentrating, and at the end of the time not recalling a thing that you have been told. I must have spent much of my life enduring weather forecasts, and the whole truth is that the weather has not changed in 50 years.
Tim Challenge.
Did the word truth slightly sound like the struth?
Oh, yeah.
Did it cover the whole struth is?
I don't think so.
No? Well, it's just it takes one to know one. I felt like I know. That's how I say truth during this show. Struth. But I could be wrong, Nicholas, and you're giving me a look that suggests I am, so...
No, I think you're right, but it was a pretty sharp challenge, wasn't it?
It was. I'm sorry. I'm grasping at straws.
And I was generous to you last time, yes. I think that straw was a bit too...
OK, a bit trigger-happy. I apologise, Giles. Away you go. That's not my job, actually.
No, you did it very well. Never been done better.
No. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's been done better time and time again for 45 years by a young man who doesn't need toupee tape.
It comes out of a can, I tell you that. Spray on.
You're trying to keep in with me now, aren't you, Giles?
Spray on Barnet, it's called.
Right.
$4.99 a tin. Spray on Barnet.
Anyway, Giles, I'm leaving it with you. Weather forecasts, 42 seconds, starting now.
My one exception to not liking weather forecasts is the shipping forecast, which is also about the weather, but has a poetic feel to it, also a kind of prosody that you might find from Joseph Conrad or Herman Melville. There's a poetry to this that really makes you feel that you are there on the high seas. Shipper, Dogger Bank, there they come. The night is harsh. The sky is illuminated with amazing stars. Winds blow, gales, waves. You can picture these cascading across the bathroom floor because I'm always getting out of the shower while listening to this particular weather.
Jason, you've challenged.
It must be deviation.
Why?
You're supposed to come with the weather forecast.
I'm describing it graphically.
You're in it.
Ah! I'm in it.
He knows isobars.
Yes, he is.
Jason, you're not right, because he'd gone on to the shipping forecast.
Well, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, true.
Yes.
No, but that is a weather forecast. I made that clear at the beginning. The shipping forecast is a weather forecast.
I think my challenge was that he was on a boat heading out into sea.
I think we can all agree that Giles has a lot of front.
Oh, Tim
Give Tim a point for that. We enjoyed that. Give Jason the point because we enjoyed his challenge. And a bit tough on Giles, I know, but it's only a fair way to play with newcomers. 7 seconds for you, Jason, and you start now.
Sticky clouds are replaced by magnets on a map with a woman with a skirt that's longer these days. Sorry, guys.
So Jason Byrne was speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. He's still in third place, but he's doing very well. And he's ahead of Tim Vine behind the other two. And Paul, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is trolls. Norwegian in origin, I think, but you have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
I don't follow much stuff on the internet, but I understand trolls is a word that's indicated to people who Twitter and tweet various obnoxious messages. Trolls also were little creatures that hid underneath wooden bridges and upset travellers who would go across these particular apparatus and instruments and hear the troll-like voice from underneath going, "I will give you 3 wishes." And they would wonder what these particular trio of desires could be. And they would say, "What is your first?" Well, I would say that initially...
Ah, yes, Giles challenge.
Repetition of say.
Yes, I would say, yes.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Giles.
Absolutely.
31 seconds are still available. You tell us something about trolls starting now.
I have recently returned from the beautiful country of Norway, which is the home of the original troll. I was there to study the work of Heinrich Ibsen, the great Norwegian playwright who features trolls in a number of his plays, notably Peer Gynt and St. John's Night, a drama recently revived in London at the German Street Theatre in a very powerful production. The troll is, of course, a Nordic creature. It can sit on your shoulder or indeed lurk behind the bushes, and it comes out, surprises you, horrifies you.
So listen to just a minute, and you learn as well as enjoy yourself. And Giles was speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, because we're moving in to the final round. And it's very close. And we'll be Jason Byrne to begin. And Jason, what a contrast to the last subject. We're now on to the Bay City Rollers.
Oh, come on.
Yes. That's what they thought up for you, Jason. The Bay City Rollers. 60 seconds, starting now.
The Bay City Rollers were originally from Scotland, Glasgow, I think it was, definitely, or maybe it was Edinburgh, not too sure. It could have been Dunfermline. They were a fantastic band in the 70s. They had long hair.
Giles challenge.
Deviation founded in 1966, definitely.
Oh! I said they were a band from the 70s.
Their hits were in the 70s.
That's true, they were, yeah.
They're very much a 70s band.
Yeah, very much.
In fact, you could say that the oncoming of punk really put the end of their career.
I was just putting him right on Edinburgh, that's okay. It's fine. It's fine. One has to remember this is Radio 4.
But,
I didn't know during the show you'd get, like, complaints from the contestants.
Oh, yeah. All goes on all the time.
You know, you've got another
Nightmare.
point, Jason.
Oh, good.
And you've got 49 seconds. Tell us more about the Bay City Rollers starting now.
long scarves and high-heeled shoes. They were originally called the Bay City Rollers, but the other name that they had way before that was Saxon. They changed their name by getting a load of darts and throwing it at a map of America when it landed on Bay City. So they said, hey, let's call ourselves the Bay City Rollers. Oh, how they laughed and cheered. And they said, let's write another song about us on stage at the top of the mountain.
Breathe! I was afraid to breathe because last time I breathed. It was noted as hesitation.
Oh no. That was at the beginning though. You can breathe halfway through.
Oh. Tim, you challenged, yes.
I did, yeah.
Why?
Why?
Yes.
Well, it's good to be involved, isn't it? I felt I challenged because I felt there was some hesitation going on there, as well as the word "said" got repeated a couple of times.
The word "said," I can accept that one.
Okay.
Yes, but no, he didn't. He set his stall out the pace he's going to deliver, and he keeps to that pace. So Tim, you've got 21 seconds. You tell us something about the Bay City Rollers, starting now.
I remember I once met the lead singer of the Bay City Rollers. What an extremely exciting thing that was. We sat in a pub at the end of a Radio 4 show called Loose Ends, and I said to him, I used to like your hits. I used to sing them when I was a child. And his eyes lit up as he thought to himself, I've met my fan. I've met the person who loved him.
Jason, challenge. Yes, repetition met.
Yes,
well listened. I have to tell you, you've got him with half a second to go.
Oh. This is going to be the longest
please don't say Andy Murray. Please don't say Andy Murray. Please don't say Andy Murray. Can I say Bay City Rollers?
Yes, you
Brilliant.
can. And, you have
Yes.
half a second, and you start now.
Bay City Rollers.
Well, let me give you the final score. Tim Vine, who hasn't played the game before, did extraordinarily well, didn't he? Yes.
I know sympathetic applause, right?
He finished in third place, but a very powerful third place, because we had two people equal in second place, Paul Merton, who's played the game frequently, and Jason Byrne, who's played it very infrequently, only twice, in fact, and they came only 1 point behind the man who's out in the lead, Gyles Brandreth, so he's the winner with 1 point only. But as I always say, to me, they're all winners in this game for their contribution that they give and the fun that we have. And I want to congratulate you all and say thank you again to Paul Merton, Jason Byrne, Gyles Brandreth and Tim Vine. It only remains to say thank you to our audience. Thank you to Sharon Leonard, who's helped me with the score, blown a whistle well. We thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we are grateful to this lovely fringe audience here up at the Edinburgh Festival who've cheered us on our way magnificently. From them, from me, from the panel, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute.